Welcome back to a new post today. Let's look at the most important points that you need to keep track for February 11th and 12th. We had stopped at 10th. So let's look at the most important topics that you need to keep track for February 11th and 12th. The very first is about the 8th Indian Ocean Conference being held in Muscat. Now this is being held by Indian Foundation. It started off in 2016 at Singapore. It's a very recent Indian Ocean Conference and participation from 30 countries, and in the last 8 years, the conference has emerged as a flagship consultative forum for countries in the region, that's the Indian Ocean region. Now, the conference endeavors to bring critical states and principal maritime partners of a region together on a common platform to deliberate on prospects of regional cooperation for security and growth and all in the region, also called as SAGAR, the acronym given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And the 8th Indian Ocean Conference was held by Indian Foundation at Muscat in Oman, and the theme for this year's conference is Voyages to New Horizons of Maritime Partnership. So what exactly is the importance of the Indian Ocean region? Now, the IOR is a geographical region that encompasses Indian Ocean and its surrounding areas. India sits at the crown of the Indian Ocean and includes many little states and islands as well. The region spans from Africa coast in west to Australia coast in east, the Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf in the north to the south of Sri Lanka and Australia. Indian Ocean is the third largest ocean, covering an area of approximately 70.6 million square kilometers. It is home to important sea lanes, especially coming from the West Asia with regard to energy, and including the Strait of Malacca, the Suez Canal, the Bab el Mandeb Strait, which connects Asia, Europe and Africa, and important projects like IMEC coming up to further connect the Indian Ocean region up to Europe. The next is along with the North-South transport corridor as well. And Qatar, let me tell you, is a key exporter to India with regard to LNG, LPG, chemical, petrochemicals, plastics and aluminium products. So Qatar is the biggest supplier of LNG to India, accounting for 48% of India's LNG needs. Now we need to remember of Qatar because the Sheikh visited India, Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmad Al Thani, the Emir of State of Qatar, visited India. Qatar is playing a very important role as a mediator between Israel and Palestine, along with US and Egypt, and the Doha round of talks were held today itself with regard to the truce deal between Israel and Hamas. And now Qatar is now also as a very big power influence. Let me tell you, Indians form the largest expatriate community in Qatar, and Qatar is expanding its ties with India with regard to trade, energy, investment, technology, culture, people-to-people ties. So India's largest supplier of LNG is Qatar, and India's main exports to Qatar include LPG, LNG, chemicals, petrochemicals, plastics, aluminium. India's key exports to Qatar includes cereals, copper, articles, iron, steel. Qatar's key exports to India include LPG, LNG, chemicals, petrochemicals, plastics, aluminium. India's key exports to Qatar include cereals, copper, articles, iron and steel particles, vegetables, fruits, spices, processed food products, electrical and other machinery, plastic products, construction material, textile garments, chemicals, precious stones and rubbers. And Lockheed Martin's built F-35 was news. US is planning to increase its supply of F-35, which is a single-seat, single-engine, supersonic stealth strike fighter. Now, the multi-role combat aircraft designed for both superiority and strike missions as also electronic warfare, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities, which is going to increase the deterrence of the Indian Army. And this is an American family produced by Lockheed Martin. US is increasing the supplies of Lockheed of F-35 Lightning II, which is it's a fighter aircraft to India, and is in the plan of supplying more of them, increase from the present intent. And a private member bill to bring about a reservation in judicial appointment, which is not there at present. Article 124 to 17 of the Constitution deal with the Supreme Court and the High Court appointments and the number of judges, but it does not have any component of reservation in judicial appointment. A private member bill now introduced by a DMK Rajya Sabha member, MP Wilson, now called to amend the Constitution and the Article 124 and 217 to have members of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward classes, women, religious minorities in the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court and the High Court in proportion of their population, and bringing transparency and allowing the state government's opinion in the judicial appointment. So this was a private member's bill that was brought to have reservation. We do not have reservation presently in any of the articles with regard to Supreme Court, and the higher judiciary remains the only institution where reservation is denied for the last 75 years after the Constitution has come into force. The bench of the superior courts therefore must reflect the diversity of the country. This is what the MP Wilson added from DMK. And according to the statements of the object of bill, India is a diverse nation with a rich tapestry of culture, community, gender, religion. The preamble of the Constitution envisions social justice for all. However, the current composition of the higher judiciary does not reflect this diversity. However, the collegium system, which makes the appointment to the higher judiciary, takes into consideration this, but there is no compulsion to take into consideration these aspects while making appointments. And the current trend in the judicial appointments is shows dismal representation of the socially marginalized groups, including women, and therefore calls for constitutionalization of reservation in the judiciary, along with the constitutionalization of the collegium system as well. The next important issue is about Cook's Island having a deal with China. So where exactly is Cook's Island? It is in the South Pacific Ocean. It is divided into the northern Cook's Island and the southern Cook's Island. The Rarotonga island of the southern Cook's Island has signed an MOU with China, which has angered its neighbor New Zealand. Now, the South Cook's Island also includes the Palmerston Island, Aitutaki Island, the Bilson Reef, the Mauki, the Miatiro, the Mangia Island, the Rarotonga, one of them. So the South Cook's Island has signed an MOU with China, which has actually angered New Zealand. Let me tell you, Cook's Island is a group of 15 small islands and atolls halfway between New Zealand and Hawaii, scattered in 2 million square kilometers of the resource-rich Pacific Ocean. Since 1965, the Cook's Islands have been a country in free association with New Zealand. All its citizens have New Zealand passport and all the perks that access New Zealand citizen. It is permitted to an independent foreign policy, but the two countries require to consult each other on security, defense, foreign policy issues. It has a population of 15,000, with 90,000 of them who identify themselves as the Maori community who lived in New Zealand, and now designated as an high-income country. Its economy depends on tourism. The agreement between the Cook's Island and China now has angered New Zealand. Also, Australia and United States have pushed back against China's increased Pacific presence, boosting funding in the region and signing new strategic partnerships. With New Zealand also boosted aid, it cannot compete financially with China, and therefore there is fear of control of China on Cook's Island. Let me tell you that Cook's Island sit on high mineral-rich nodules of the seafloor. China is looking to have significant access to nickel, copper, manganese, iron, rare earth elements needed for tech products and also clean energy transition as well, and therefore is looking to become closer to the Cook's Islands and the atolls. So these are the most important topics. Apart from that, the last one we have is carbon capture and storage. Now, it is a process to remove carbon dioxide from the industrial emissions and storing it underground. Carbon capture and storage technology is for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and addressing climate change. It works by industrial processes like power plants, steel mills, cement factories as well, and transport. Captured CO2 by ship, train or truck or pipeline. They store the CO2 into geological formations like depleted oil and gas reserves, coal seams and saline aquifers as well. This will help reduce the CO2 emissions and contribute to lessening of global warming. It will allow the coal and gas fired plants to continuously provide grid flexibility, and can also help India in achieving the net zero emissions as well. These are the most important topics I thought I should be tracking for you all for February 11th and 12th. If you did, please do like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment at the end of the video. I shall see you in my next post. Until then, it's very happy learning.